Had a difficult childhood, a little bit competitive. I liked climbing the highest up the trees and things like that. But I wasn't sporty at school and I wasn't creative. I was actually quite academic. Both of my parents were drug addicts. My dad went to prison when I was 14. Addicts are not bad people. They're people who are struggling themselves, people who need support. My parents always loved me and I love them. They're both doing incredibly well now. By secondary school, I really started to struggle. Low self-esteem, lacking confidence, and feeling like I had to prove myself. I had to keep up with being that A-star maths science student. So I actually left school without any GCSEs. I didn't know that there was anything else that I could do. I didn't think I was good at anything, but I knew I needed money. I threw myself into working hard, minimum wage jobs. When I was 16, I was cleaning caravans. Anybody that wants to give something a go, martial arts, sport, whatever it might be, they're probably thinking, I'm not fit enough to start. You're never going to be overly fit when you start. It's overcoming that fear, that self-doubt to begin. Some strange part of me decided, I'm going to stick to this. It's really, really tough. It was really hard, but I loved that feeling afterwards when you've done that accomplishment, that pushing myself and pushing my limits. I was the only female, they were men, they looked big and strong and scary on the outside, but they were actually kind of male allies, they were supporters. So when I first started, I couldn't even do one press up. And the kind of tough love approach, I'm pleased they did it, but it was like, no, if you're going to train with us, you're going to train with us.
So good afternoon, Jess. Thank you for joining us. Would you be able to introduce yourself for our viewers, please?
Absolutely. Hello, and hello everybody listening. It's my pleasure to be here. My name is Jess Roper. I'm a former 2 times English kickboxing champion and I'm a 2nd Dan black belt. I've been coaching kickboxing for 8 years now. I specialise in working with women, but most importantly, over the last 4 to 5 years, I decided to go self-employed. I decided that I was aiming to speak on stages globally. I want to travel around the world sharing the messages. I've worked in over 100 schools, encouraging young people to dream big, start small, and never give up, using the lessons learned from elite level combat sport. And most recently, over the last kind of year or so, I've been working with companies kind of in the high performance and health area to working with the current leaders, but aiming to empower the leaders of the future. So both of you, I have the utmost respect for what you've begun with this podcast, and everybody listening, especially if you are younger, you are the ones who can change the world for us and for the future.
Well,
Thank you for that, Jess.
so before all of this started, all of your kickboxing, all of your speaking, everything, right? What was your life like before everything took off?
Oh, I had a difficult childhood. I'm going to emphasize that I do have happy memories. I do have supportive family around me, like playing with my cousins in the woods. I was a little bit competitive. I liked climbing the highest up the trees and things like that. But I wasn't sporty at school and I wasn't creative. I was actually quite academic. But in my home life, both of my parents were drug addicts, heroin, alcoholics. My dad went to prison when I was 14. Again, I would like to emphasize that addicts are not bad people. They're people who are struggling themselves, people who need support. My parents always loved me and I love them. They're both doing incredibly well now. So I liked primary school. It was fun and I'm glad I went to quite a good school. I had good friends. But by secondary school, I really started to struggle. Low self-esteem, lacking confidence, and feeling like I had to prove myself. I had to keep up with being that A-star maths science student. I had to go to university. I had to do what everyone said that I needed to do, but I failed to perform under the pressure. I withdrew. I became socially anxious, avoidant. So I actually left school without any GCSEs. And in my mind, I just completely failed at life. I didn't know that there was anything else that I could do. I didn't think I was good at anything, but I knew I needed money. I threw myself into working hard, minimum wage jobs. When I was 16, I was cleaning caravans. And I knew that there's more to life than this, but I didn't know what to do. What do you do after school, failing education? Because you grow up thinking that is everything. Until I found kickboxing. So at the age of 19, I began, and I was useless. I will emphasize, I was not a natural fighter or champion or even naturally fit or anything. I was weak mentally and physically, but it was the right environment to support me to improve. And with the, so hence that dream big, like becoming a champion. Wow, that's huge. I never would have imagined that was possible. But I had the right environment, the right coaches, the right team around me. Start small. I just had to keep improving. And there were loads of losses along the way. So that's to never give up. Like, it's never going to be easy. There are going to be ups and downs, struggles, setbacks. And it's our ability to be able to overcome them. So here I am, nearly 13 years later, I think. I'm still kickboxing. It's changed. I've retired from fighting and I'm currently pregnant, but still doing it, still coaching. I'll be in the gym tonight, adapting as I go around the business too.
That's really good then. You sound really dedicated towards that then.
I love
Really.
it. So I always say, especially when I go into the schools, it's not about encouraging you to do kickboxing. Martial arts are great if you enjoy it, but it's about finding what you find fun, finding the thing that you want to dedicate to. So both of you, you're dedicating to this podcast. Who knows where you'll be in the next 5, 10 years and what you'll achieve because you've begun. And anybody listening, everybody listening, whatever it is that you have that spark of inspiration, that motivation and support to get started, then the discipline comes. You've got to stick with it. But as long as that original joy, passion, fun, whatever word you want to use, as long as you want to be doing it, you're not told. Like, I was told I was good at maths and I would make a good accountant and that would be a good career. I don't enjoy accountancy. So it didn't work.
So why did you pick kickboxing compared to other martial arts? Was it because you enjoyed it more, or have you tested them all, or some of them?
I absolutely haven't tested them all. I think it was partly luck, partly what was about. Local town. I live in a town on the southeast coast called Hastings, so it's not huge. There are actually really good martial arts clubs about. There's also really good jiu-jitsu. There's a small local MMA club that's doing well. So there are other taekwondo, boxing clubs, things like that. But it just so happened that we found a local kickboxing club, my partner and I. So he began first because, like I said, I was terrified. I was like, I can't do that. I'm not good enough. I'm not fit enough. Everybody, that's the main excuse for anybody that wants to give something a go, martial arts, sport, whatever it might be. They're probably thinking, I'm not fit enough to start. You're never going to be overly fit when you start. It's overcoming that fear, that self-doubt to begin. So he helped me. He began first and then he encouraged me to go along and he supported me. And that was one of the hardest steps, joining. I was also the only female surrounded by big, strong men. As you can imagine, I walked in there, punching, they're kicking, and I'm like, whoa, that's terrifying. But some strange part of me decided I'm going to stick to this. It's really, really tough. It was really hard, but I loved that feeling afterwards when you're done, that accomplishment, that pushing myself and pushing my limits. And yeah, so it's kind of luck, I guess. I tried a few other things because I knew I needed to improve my fitness because I wasn't doing anything. I tried running with a friend, like we'd meet up and go together, but I just didn't. I made excuses not to, and it didn't work. I tried going to the gym. I tried joining the gym and doing the classes, and I didn't stick with it. Obviously, if you don't stick with something, you don't get results. And then kickboxing, first martial art I tried, other than judo, when I was a tiny little kid. I didn't like judo because I didn't like rolling and being thrown. And so grappling isn't really for me. I have done a bit of jiu-jitsu. I've done a couple of competitions, but I really don't like takedowns or sweeps. I like the punching and the kicking. That's my favorite.
Nice.
You've
All
done really well then to overcome so many barriers, and especially being, the only female in the room. I mean, that must have been absolutely terrifying at first, but then you kept on going and going, and then you enjoyed it. I mean, it's incredible.
Yes, I think this translates well to the kind of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. I was the only female. They were men. They looked big and strong and scary on the outside, but they were actually kind of male allies. They were supporters. They were able to push me in the right way. It as my career has progressed as a coach, I have found that we are different. Women are very different to men physiologically. So when I first started, I couldn't even do one press up. And the kind of tough love approach, I'm pleased they did it, but it was like, no, if you're going to train with us, you're going to train with us, like equality. We're not just going to say go do girl press ups in the corner on your knees. He was like, you're going to learn to do them properly. So I had to dedicate, because I had to just keep practicing. I still don't like press ups. I still practice press. Well, actually, I'm not practicing press ups right now because I'm getting bigger and they're getting harder. I will do press ups again in the future, post pregnancy. But the way I work with women, and this translates into going into the companies as well, it's like we are in male dominated environments still, but we bring something unique to the environment. It's important for the culture, and we can excel even if the environment is male dominated. And there are companies now that are learning this, that actually we need to embrace the feminine strengths alongside the masculine. Yes, we want to achieve, we want to compete, we want to be the best, but also the kind of softer skills, the communication, the empathy, our human skills. We need to embrace our humanity as we move forwards, because who knows what's going to happen with AI over the next coming years.
AI is getting a lot more powerful now. It's quite scary, isn't it?
Scary, exciting.
Exciting.
I'm going to remain optimistic that there won't be some kind of AI takeover and we all end up in an apocalypse or something. I think we can use it to our advantage as long as we embrace our humanity. Because so I like to talk about performance, and we're not machines. Athletes know this. We need to rest and recover. Companies struggle with this. Like when I ask them, what does resilience mean? Or even school exams and pressure for students, or whatever age you're at, we are taught to perform, to reach certain targets. Accountancy again, maths, like I'm old enough that teachers used to say, you won't have a calculator in your pocket at all times. Yes, we do. Who doesn't have a phone on them? And we can't outperform tech. So let's use tech to do the stuff better than us, and then find out our creativity, our humanity, our empathy, our human emotional intelligence. Let's embrace that and become the best we can be for ourselves and everybody around us.
Of course.
And also just to add on to the whole like, AI thing, the cool thing with fighting as well is obviously a robot can't really take over that, can they? So you don't have the imminent worry of, hang on a minute, is some robot going to steal my job? It's like
no, and actually, so even more than the fighting, and I think without having to do the tasks like the accountancy, and if anybody loves accountancy and anybody's an accountant and that's their future, great. I'm not slagging it off or anything, but with the coaching too, there are ways that we can use. I was talking about this. I actually achieved my goal of working in Thailand in May, and I was invited to be part of a panel. And this came up, the AI versus human. And someone was saying that they have an AI coach, like kind of an app that they can talk to, like kind of counseling, therapy, that type of coaching, opposed to sport coaching that I'm talking about when I think of kickboxing. And I it's not the same. Like if so, regarding being a fighter, if I'm in the ring and I'm struggling and I know that I lost that round and I hurt a little bit, but I'm okay and I'm regulating my breathing, I'm calming myself down in the corner, I don't want to go up to a robot that analyzes everything and tells me what to do, because it lacks the empathy. So this is where we will use both to perform the best, because if we have the technology that can analyze that data, then we need a human to communicate it, because we connect through human skills. And when my coach was in my corner, when they were telling me, you always have three corner people generally, when they were telling me what to do, how to react, what her weaknesses were, what my weaknesses were, and how to improve them, they've been in that situation before. They know what it feels like. So I think it will progress where sports coaches, we already know the technology is improving, like heart rate variability, monitoring sleep, how we can track our nutrition and our macros. It's all improving constantly. So it would be stupid to not use AI, not use the advancement of technology, but then we still need that human interaction. Otherwise, it just won't feel right, I don't think. Maybe it'll change. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe we'll just have robots in our corner, but I hope not. I wouldn't want to be that fighter.
No, I mean, it's certainly nice to have a mixture of the AI and human interaction as well. It's just a nice balance, isn't it? Because obviously AI can help us and we can just use that to our advantage. It's nice to have human interaction. Like, that's the best thing.
And also with the more mundane tasks perhaps being done, it buys us more time to do these things, to do our sporting, creative, pleasurable pursuits. The things, if we've got things automated and tasks that we don't want to be doing, the admin, the whatever it might be, then we have more. I think sports will only increase from the advancement of AI, because if people aren't having to work as hard to be productive because AI is doing it for us, we've got more free time to enjoy our life.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
100%.
do things that make an impact, things that help other people. Hope that's where the kind of kindness. I work with a charity called Make Life Kind, and they're all about, again, we go into schools, but changing stigmas and stereotypes, and we work on topics such as racism, knife crime, and I go in to talk about the mental and physical health benefits of sport and empowerment, confidence, that kind of thing. So it frees up more time to do things like that, so we can connect through impact driven, purpose filled topics opposed to just productivity.
Of course.
So back to your kickboxing career. How many fights in your 13 years of fighting? How many bouts have you been in?
Good question. The first few years I didn't fight, so it's a long time I've been training, and my goal was always to be a black belt, to coach. I didn't really think I was going to fight. My first fight was awful, so I didn't know if I was going to fight again. I lost lots of fights. I did a lot of light contact fights early on. I did a couple of karate competitions. I lost them all. Well, I won a couple of like little bits. And so in a karate competition, you go against everyone. It's like tournament style. So you might have like 5, 6, 7, 8, however many girls that you go against, men if you're men. And so I won a few, but I never placed overall. And then I started doing full contact, and I lost my first full contact fight as well. I was like, right, this is it. I'm going to win this one. Getting fed up of losing, and I'm improving and I'm getting better, and I lost that. And then I started to win and I started to lose again. Then I became a champion. And so I've had 8 full contact fights, and my record is split down the middle, 4-4. So it's not the best record in the world, but I'm pleased with what I have achieved, considering I started at an older age, considering it wasn't really what I wanted to do. I didn't have the ambition. So when I say about the big dream of becoming a champion, my goal wasn't that. My goal was to become the best that I could be. And when I decided to become a champ, when I thought, well, what if I could do that? It wasn't to keep fighting, be the best in the world. It was to win a title, to prove I could, to prove that I could overcome those losses and show what is possible. So unlike a lot of fighters, like there's a lot of unbeaten fighters and they've got incredible records, and I've got the utmost respect for them. I've fought the best in the world. I've lost to the best in the world, but I've also beaten a few people too, and I'm happy with that.
So, so obviously, when you were losing on occasion, would you say that gave you more determination to keep on going? That gave you more fuel to keep going?
Absolutely. I in the moment where you lose, it's the worst feeling. I feel like I've let myself down. I feel like I've let my team down. Everybody's supporting because they buy tickets, and the room's full of people there cheering you on, and your hand isn't raised and you lost. And I'd hold it together in the ring, but then I'd always cry. I'd go backstage. You're exhausted as well. You've just been punched God knows how many times. and it's just the emotion. It all comes out. It's like apologizing to my coach, like, I'm so sorry I let you down. Oh, can you forgive me? And then that's where they come in and they consolidate you, they coach you, they help you overcome those emotions. No AI is doing that. In that moment, no robot is telling me what to do.
Yeah.
And they remind me that you did your best. You did, and I always did. I always gave everything to training. So this is where I say, like, you can't control the outcome in business, in life, in exams even. You can, but you can control what you do to prepare. You can study, you can work, you can put the reps in, and then you can say, even if you fail, and failure is inevitable if you're going big enough and if the challenge and task is hard enough, then you say, okay, I gave everything. What can I learn from this and how can I improve? And that was how I became a champion. So I did win 2 belts in 2019. I won my first one in the under 53.5 kilo weight category. That was my second belt. My first belt was just down there below. And then I fought again in November for the under 56 kilo. So they're both with the World Ring Sport Association. They're both English titles. Then I becoming a champion gave me the confidence to go self-employed, because then I really did start to believe in myself, and I begun to think, if I managed to achieve that, what else could I achieve and what impact could I have? Because fighting is, I'm competitive, I want to improve, I have that drive. But I don't really care about beating another person. I have the utmost respect for anyone who steps in the ring, and the winner deserves to win. Losing sucks, but the girls that beat me, they're incredible and they deserve it, and I've got to be happy for them. With speaking, there is no losing. I step on stage, I share what I share. I get to experience that adrenaline and that excitement because I was terrified. I get to experience that push to improve because I wasn't very good when I began and I'm a lot better now. And I'm going to keep improving, because if I want to be known as a global keynote speaker, then yes, I've ticked off Europe. Yes, I've ticked off Thailand. Haven't made it over to the States yet. And that will be my goal post pregnancy. So that's the next thing. So becoming the best speaker I can be, empowering future generations, and becoming the best mum I can be as well. That's my next stage of life. But it all comes from the skills I learned through fighting.
Mm.
Really
Um,
good.
Back to you talking about, how your first fight didn't go well. For anyone who's like working on anything really, whether that be fighting, business or anything, no one's first is gonna be good.
Hmm.
Like, for example, our first podcast, it did all right in views, but that was because we pushed it out on social media everywhere.
Yeah.
The second video after that flopped, to be honest.
It was
Yeah.
really poor performance, really poor. But that gave us more fuel to say, okay, how do we do even better?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's the most powerful question. How do I improve? How do I do better? What can I learn from this? Who can support me as well? We're not alone. It's so reaching out to people, like, shout out to David Heiner for connecting us. Like,
100%.
he's helped me with my speaking career. And if anybody wants to go into speaking professionally, he's who I would recommend. But it's using it, and like I said, in the moment it sucks. Like, we want to keep improving, we want to win, we want to be the best. It's in our nature, especially if we're driven, if we're motivated. But we don't always succeed all of the time, but we can inevitably succeed and we can achieve what we're aiming for. And that's why we'd be encouraging that big dream. Go bigger, go so big you think, maybe I can't ever achieve that. And then whatever you do achieve, it'll be pretty amazing too. So, like, yes, I didn't become a world champion, I still became a champion though. And if I hadn't even fought, which most people don't, I wouldn't have achieved any of it. Someone, it's setting those big goals and big dreams and then giving everything towards it.
Yeah, I fully agree. And I would quite argue that losing is actually quite important because that gives you more fuel to fight further and go further. You know, if you win all the time, you would become more relaxed and you'd become a bit more lazy towards it. So losing it's a wake-up call, really.
Yeah, and it can be if people go in on a winning streak, if there's that pressure to be the best, if they're naturally good, if they're always winning, if they're undefeated, there's a huge amount of pressure to maintain that. The way that I can resonate with that is through my school, my academic studies, and I had a huge pressure to maintain that kind of A-star exam results because that was part of my identity. I can't drop down to getting a B when I'm supposed to get an A-star. But whereas if I was a C grade, getting a B would be like, great, I've succeeded. So that's kind of like the parallel that I would run to the kickboxing. Yes, there are the people who are at the absolute top, the best. The majority of people aren't there though, and we need to accept where we are and aim to go up there because we can. And I think from my experience, it's easier to have the drive, to have the resilience, develop the resilience as we go, starting at the bottom and working our way up, which also translates to every martial artist, no matter how good they are, they start at a white belt. You can't just jump in the middle at blue belt because, oh, you're really athletic. You have to go through the grades, you have to serve the time, you have to contribute back to the community, all of these things. To get that black belt, you know that you've dedicated at least 5 years and you have improved. Even if you start really good, you still have to improve that much more. And I prefer that to kind of the school's grading system of giving you a, well, it's not, it's numbers now, isn't it? But giving you a number and then having to keep up with that, because that causes a lot of pressure.
Oh yeah, I mean it really does. And I would argue that in obviously fighting, starting from the bottom is actually good before you go to the top. So then you will build more respect from the people who start at the bottom. You will know the struggles. And because if you start right at the top, you won't know what, they have to go through, the amount of fighting and dedication they have to go through to get to the top. So it's definitely important to start from the bottom to go to the top.
On a flip side, there, because we all have fear. I have fear of judgment. I used to worry about this more, like talking about the losses, talking about the fact I'm not the best in the world. I think, well, why are people going to want to listen to me? There are people out there who are undefeated. There are people out there who've won 50 fights and their careers are amazing, and they're just going to think, who's she to talk about fighting and champion? And but then I realized that if it doesn't align with some people, that's okay. I'm telling my truth. I'm showing up as me, my version of champion success, and encouraging other people, because we can all become the best that we can be at what we choose to do, but we can't all become the world champion realistically. And that's why it's finding the right thing for us to dedicate to get to that level that we go, okay, I'm proud, and be proud of our performance, because you've got to make sacrifices to achieve anything. And could I have become a world champion? Possibly, if I'd sacrificed the speaking, if I'd continued on that trajectory, and if I had dedicated even more time, energy, money into my kickboxing, yes, I could have progressed, but I decided it was time to move on. So there's a difference between giving up because it got tough and quitting because it's hard, but we could choose to move on. So I chose to move on from fighting at the right time for me. So I had to, and I still have to work on this, letting go. Oh, well, I'm not going to progress anymore. I'm not going to win any more titles. But I have to remind myself my big dream has evolved. It's so much bigger than me now. It's so much bigger than fighting. Like, speaking to you is what I want to do. I want you to succeed. I want everybody listening to this podcast to succeed at what they choose. And that to me is a greater success than, yes, it would be amazing, but standing in the ring and being named the world champion, I've had to sacrifice that to focus on this instead.
Also, I just want to say, add something on to the last point. If you're like a fighter or entrepreneur or something, you've got to have an ego to keep the drive. You can't go into it just thinking, oh yeah, I'm mundane. If you think you're the best and you act the best, you will become the best. So it's kind of the same thing with the podcast. We don't treat it as like, oh yeah, we'll just just do it when we want. We're like we're gonna treat this like we have millions of subscribers who are waiting for a new release. So we put all of our effort into everything. So yeah, the ego really, really helps build up a large like viewer base and helps us progress. It really works. Yeah.
It really does, because we're 100%, dedicated to releasing. If consistency's key. We, as Keen said, we act like we have, tons of subscribers, because that ego is key, and it keeps us hard drive. We don't give up just because we're feeling tired on that month. No, it makes us fight further.
Yes. And my actual fight, I think, do most people watch for YouTube? I just wrote my mug, Lion King. It just reminded me. I walked out to the Lion King because I'd said when I was fighting in the lower fights and everything, and I was struggling, but I was training, always trained hard, because I always knew that if I'm going to get there, I've got to build that foundation, and it takes years. And I said, if I get a title shot, now I would recommend don't say if, say when, fully believe. When I get that title shot, I'm going to walk out to the Lion King. I just can't wait to be king, because it was like, I'm going to be the main event like no king was before. And when I walked out, the crowd roared, and it was like, yes, this is my time to become a champion. So unlike the previous fights where I was a bit nervous, walking out a bit like, right, I've got to look confident, but I'm not confident inside. That time, I just knew I am a champion. So like, it's Muhammad Ali up there somewhere, but the camera cuts him off. And it's like, I am the greatest. It's that believing in what we choose to pursue. So with the speaking, I'm not there yet. I can confidently say now, yes, I am an excellent keynote speaker, but I will continue to improve so that I am known as the best. Like, if people want the subjects that I speak about, if they want empowerment, if they want high performance, health for high performance in particular, they will know, let's go to Jess.
100%.
Um, it's also one thing which helped people like Conor McGregor kind of increase his what it is popularity and everything because he was so like egotistical and he always told himself he was the best. Um, even when he did that even when he did the fight with Mayweather a few years back, he even though he wasn't a boxer himself, he acted like he would kill him. So that really like
It
it's
really
that.
does. And on the flip side of that, we have a lot of negative voices, a lot of negative beliefs. They hold us back. So I've experienced that too. The I'm going to lose because I'm not fit enough. I was always fit enough. I was always the fittest fighter, or as fit as my opponent. But I was telling myself that I was going to lose. So guess what? I lost. So with if I could go back with everything that I know now and tell me at the beginning everything I know and change the way I approached fighting, change my belief in myself, all of these tools and techniques, which include kind of embodiment, visualization, to increase our confidence, I probably would have won a lot more fights because I would have had the skill set, and I never got badly beaten or anything. I've never been knocked out. I've never been badly hurt. I've always fought a really good fight, but I was telling myself I was going to lose. So I lost. Like, now it makes so much sense, but we don't know what we don't know until we know it. So that's why I want to share everything that I now know with people, and younger people in particular, because it can change your life.
It really can. I mean, having, the best mindset possible will bring the best outcomes, really. Because if we say we're not going to be doing any good for, what we do, then we won't. People won't enjoy watching, or people won't enjoy listening. But if we know that we are helping people, then we will.
Absolutely. And there will be people that are listening to you and you don't even know the impact you're having yet, and it will compound over time. You will continue to develop your skill, you will continue to grow your audience, your reach, connecting with people, your network, and who knows where it will go. But if you were telling yourself, oh, what's the point, that second episode we only got not very many viewers, however many that is, subject to where you are, like, let's give up because nobody's listening. Like, people are listening. Even that second episode that sucked, people still listened, And who knows what those listeners got from it. Only one person needs to hear what you have to say, and it could change that one person's life. And yes, we're not aiming to only speak to one person. We're aiming to grow how many people we speak to, but each one of those numbers is a person, and you never know what impact it will have if you're sharing these positive messages.
Of course.
Yeah. I got a message actually on Instagram a few days ago, and it was someone who had watched the Simon Scribb video, and they were telling me, how he was currently dealing with like an amount of debt, and it kind of inspired him to kind of get out of that debt and probably start his own business or something like that. And it's been like back and forth conversation really. It's like it adds that extra bit of drive.
It's
Yeah,
incredible that we know we're actually, making an impact and seeing the impact as well. It's incredible. It makes it more worth it.
absolutely. For everybody that tells you something positive, remember there's people that aren't telling you as well, because that's still kind of, when I think about the amount of people I've spoken to, like the thousands, probably including video, hundreds of thousands, but live audiences, I've spoken to over 30,000 students in schools alone, and I don't get to speak to them again. So again, the fact you told David puts you in the top percentage that have taken action and told him the impact it's had. And that means the world to any of us, like as a podcast host, as a speaker, athletes are a bit different because they don't have the same positive impact. It doesn't really change someone's life. It can, because you can take the attributes that they apply to achieve success and apply it to whatever it is you're doing. But I think sport is more entertainment. It's less life changing, but entertainment is still important too. But you're less likely to hear, "Oh, you changed my life by winning that fight." They're just going to say, "Well done, that was amazing." So that's why I prefer speaking.
100%. Because speaking, that even if one person in that room takes it in and it changes them, that's made it worth it. It was worth getting up and speaking because you've changed someone's mindset. Even if it's one person's mindset, you've still helped someone.
What was the key thing that David said that you took away? Like, what was like, wow, that's the bit that.
I think something along the lines of words are cheap. You can say anything. It's action that changes anything. And you can say anything, but it doesn't mean you're going to do it. You actually have to do it to make an impact. That definitely struck me, and that's what me and Kian looked over, and we were like, we're going to do this. We want to make an impact.
And you are doing it. So I had a bit like that drove me. So again, that fear of failure. When we're motivated, we either go away from failure or towards success. The motivation away from failure, the not wanting to get knocked out in front of 1,000 people, that drives you to run faster when you're running up that hill. That drives you to push harder in every sparring round. And when I decided in 2020, in lockdown, in a global pandemic, that I am going to speak on stages globally, I made the bold decision to share that publicly for accountability. Because I was like, I'm going to keep talking about it, and people are going to keep saying words are cheap. People are going to keep saying, yeah, there's another person that thinks they're going to succeed, but are they really? But like Muhammad Ali, like the I am the greatest, I am going to do it. I will make it happen. I refuse to fail. I'm like, yes, struggles and setbacks, but I refuse to ultimately fail. I'll keep going. And that's why I'm really pleased to now say I was booked to deliver my keynote in Bangkok. I am getting there because people are seeing the success, and they say, like, there's no such thing as an overnight success. I've got people saying, "Oh, you're such a natural speaker. Oh, that's an amazing opportunity. Oh, that's lucky that you got to do that." It's like, no, that's 4 years of pure dedication and determination and discipline to make it happen. And I'm going to keep going. And that applies to anybody like that. Yeah, I like that saying. Words are cheap, but if you say you're going to do something, commit to it and make it
Yeah,
happen.
100%.
Make that commitment, and then, like you said, consistency as well. Commitment and consistency are key. You've got to decide to commit to it, and then you've got to keep consistent with those small steps. So every episode you're doing, you're getting a step closer, more growth. So well done to both of you.
Thank you.
And it's oh, I forgot who said it now, but it was 90% of what people do in relating to business is just talking, but it's that final like 10% which actually matters.
Hmm.
Like if you're just gonna talk about starting a business or talk about starting a podcast or talk about fighting, you're going nowhere with it. Even if you think, oh yeah, I'm going to achieve this by this point, but don't actually do anything, completely useless. It's like you're not even talking about it.
Yeah.
It's when you actually put your head down and actually work, you get and you get closer and closer. That is the thing that matters.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
I've had seen a lot of people come into the gym and talk about how they want to fight, talk about how they want to win, become a black belt, whatever goal it might be. Those that talk about it, especially in the beginning, they don't do it.
No.
Without sounding negative, I always think, right, I've got to support them, okay. But it's very rare to have someone come in and go, I'm going to do this really big thing and then do it. So then you've got to think, well, how can we support them to? But they like the idea of it, but then it's, can you do what it takes? Do you like the sacrifices, the lifestyle that it's required? So with the kind of going back to what I said at the beginning about pick something you enjoy doing, you enjoy the outcome. Everybody enjoys winning, nobody enjoys losing, and nobody enjoys getting up really early on a Sunday morning to do beach sprints or hill sprints or whatever it might be. But so enjoy might not be the right word, but what sacrifices are you prepared to make to achieve it? And that's the bit where most people give up, fail, because they're not prepared to make those sacrifices. So going back to the speaking, that's why I gave up fighting, because I wasn't prepared to sacrifice the speaking growth, because I'd already said I'm going to speak on stages globally. I wasn't saying in 2021 I'm going to be a world champion. I was saying I'm going to do one more fight. I had one more fight in 2021. I fought for a British title and I lost. And then I thought, oh no, I can't leave on a loss. But I wasn't saying I'm going to be the world champion. I was saying I'm going to speak on stages around the world. So I had to decide, which one is it? One needs my full commitment. So I had to drop the fighting because I am focused on the speaking.
Yeah, of course. I mean, for starting a business or a podcast, you have to accept that there's going to be sacrifices because without sacrifices, you won't get to the ultimate goal you want to achieve. It plays a key part in it. It teaches you and it makes you tougher and it gives you more fuel.
Yeah. And we've got to take personal responsibility for that too, because we can't control everything around us. I was on a trajectory. So 2 English titles. I was going to fight for a British in May. I was going to fly out to Spain and fight at the World Championships in July. 2020, obviously they didn't happen. We were in lockdown. I could blame them, but actually I could have trained in a different way. I could have continued to progress the best I could. It is hard to progress without actually being in front of other human beings. You can do all the fitness stuff. I coached kickboxing online. I still do to a degree. I work with a few people, and it's different. If you fight, you've got to be around people. But in that time, I decided to dedicate to my speaking instead. So I take the responsibility for the decision that I decided that took me away from world champion, but towards global speaker instead. There's no point. I could blame the circumstances. Oh, well, we had a lockdown. Oh, well, I couldn't be in the gym. Oh, well, I had to do this. I had to earn money. Or, but you choose, you take responsibility. So you decide what you want to achieve and you make those sacrifices, those commitments, that consistency, and then you can achieve it.
Yeah, of course.
to be brutally honest with you, for the first through late October, November, and December, me and Cole were just talking about starting the podcast. We were, just like debating ideas and everything, but didn't actually think we were going to do it.
Yeah.
Um, but then of course David came along, and then we were like, hang on a minute, we actually need to do something about this. Um, so honestly, if he didn't come speak to our school that day, I don't think this podcast would actually be a thing.
No, he enlightened a flame in us, 100%.
It would still
That's
be murder.
incredible. See, that's testament to the power of speaking and of inspiring someone else. So like you again, he can't take full credit. You take full credit for you doing it. But one thing he said, stuck with you and prompted that action, and then you have done it. So it's like with the fighting, every champion has a coach in their corner. Without seeing my coach win, because that was me, I saw him win and we'd been training together, and I thought, if he can do that, why can't I? What if I can too? And then he was there to support me. So you're in that position where David said that thing and then you took it, and you didn't just talk about it, you didn't just think about it, you're doing it.
All right. So you briefly mentioned why you started speaking, but are you able to like tell us some more about that?
Yes. So firstly, my background is hospitality in terms of what I did to earn money while I was an amateur fighter. And my first business was Fighting Fit Food. I was selling healthy prepared meals in the gym, and I was catering at this event. It was an International Women's Day event, and they invited me to speak on stage for 10 minutes originally, but they cut me down to 5 at the last moment. So you got to be ready to adapt. My first experience, I adapted. I got rid of my plan and I did something completely different. And I'm glad I did. But I was speaking on the benefits of kickboxing for women, not surprisingly. And I was probably quite awful. I used really long words trying to sound clever, like osteoporosis and sarcopenia, and like, so all the health benefits that it could bring. And it was probably quite boring. But the thing that was key was I got my mum on stage and I got her to demonstrate a couple of punches. And my mum is like nearly 60 now. She was in her mid 50s. And I think that had that emotional connection. But that experience and the people coming up to me afterwards and saying like, wow, thank you for sharing. And so overcoming the fear, like the fear before stepping in the ring, and then celebrating the success, like celebrating the win, the adrenaline, the everything. So when you do it, you're like, wow, that's the best feeling ever. So when you face your fear and when you succeed, that's why we do it. And I realized that speaking is like fighting, but with so much more of a positive impact. And that pushed me to set that, okay, 5-year goal. What do I want? My business was all local. It was all like in local gyms. And I was like, I want to travel. I was like, I need to change everything, because what I'm building at the moment is not taking me where I want to go. So that encouraged me to let go of the food business and lockdown as well. Like that was the final straw. I was like, no, I'm not going to switch to like care homes or whatever. Gyms are shut. I can't sell it to my target audience. So I'm going to fully focus on the speaking and the kickboxing coaching. And so that first event was that spark for me, that wow, I can do this. And that pushed me to develop the skill through the lockdown. So I had to learn to speak to camera. I had to do it all online. I couldn't go to in-person events. Everything had to change. But I had that inspiration. I had that tenacity to keep going. Again, like if you're going to use excuses, I could have said, oh well, we're in lockdown, I can't speak at any more events, there aren't any events. But I was determined to find a way. So I joined an online Toastmasters club. I started doing a local radio show from home, so just with my microphone at my computer like this. I was on a couple of podcasts, and I look back now and they were awful. Like the way that I speak now has improved since then. Definitely, it's good to reflect back. Like you said, your first couple of episodes, you'll look back now and think we're so much better, we sound so much more confident, our communication is more clear, all of these things. So I'm glad I have those to reflect upon. Facebook Lives, I did Facebook Lives every day, and I look back and I'm like, oh, they were awful. People used to watch that, but people did used to watch that. I used to connect with people, and they now talk to me about how far I've come. So you'll have that. Like, keep those early episodes, don't ever delete them. And you might think, oh, they're awful, but you've done it and you will improve from it. So that was how it began. It began in 2020. And then I started working in schools at the end of 2021, all through 2022. I did over 50 schools in a year, and then companies through 2023 and this year. So it's progressed each year from kind of online only, schools, companies, and schools.
Of course, I mean, it's definitely important to remember where you started from to where you are now. So me and Kian will never delete those first videos, because we can see where we started from and how we've improved. And it's just nice to see where you started from and the journey where you are now. It's great to see the progress you've made.
Absolutely. Today saw a memory of a video that I shared before my first ever school assembly, and I was so nervous. It was terrifying, but I did it and it went well, and I got good feedback. But I think back now to the assembly I would have given then, and I'm like, oh, I don't actually have it recorded or anything, but I was like, that would have been really awful. I'd have been like really nervous and standing there like high and speaking and but whereas now I'm so confident in what I deliver and I've done it so many times, I don't have to worry about it. I can just be me and accept that I'm here to share and connect. And yeah, it won't resonate with everybody, but it will resonate with some. And hopefully, like you, being in that 3%, if those 3% go out and do it, I've succeeded.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
And I'm pretty sure it's still going on. But September 26th, we're actually doing a speaking event as well.
Yes,
Uh,
so that should be with someone called Simon Hyde. He owns Furler, so that's quite a business not only in Redditch but Germany as well. So he's quite a nice guy. He was my mentor, business mentor. So he was quite good, and he's got so much experience. But hopefully September 26th, we can just speak in front of a room of business people just like ourselves, because we've not been to a proper event yet. So that is we we would love to go to as many as we can, just to at least enlighten someone or make our cause visible to as many people as we physically can.
You've got a story already that you're going to continue to build upon because you've done it. So it began with like that big dream and like having people to support you, with David Heiner, with Simon Squibb, with whoever it is you choose to be the kind of coach in your corner. You can already share the like last 6 months. By September it will be 8 months, nearly 9 months. It's kind of a year since you first had that idea. Like you said, it began with the idea and then you didn't actually do it, then you did do it, and then it had ups and downs. So you've got that story and people will want to hear that. And even people like double triple your age will hear that and go, if they can do it, maybe I can too. Like it's really, I've had people like double my age say to me like, you've inspired me to take action, and I'm like, how have I inspired somebody that's double my age? But it's the same kind of narrative, that kind of struggling to succeed, then getting some success, then losing a bit more, then finally succeeding. And you'll get there, and you'll start with that event on the 26th and you'll learn from it. People will take something positive away. You'll also realize I can improve that. The next one will be a bit better, and who knows where it'll go. So if I come across any events, I will bear you in mind, definitely.
Thank you.
And where is that event on the 26th?
So it's in our local area, Redditch. It's in one of the offices. But another thing is the fact that journalists, like the local journalists, think we're good enough to go on the paper, our story's great enough to go on there. BBC Radio. Our story, it's going really well out there. Like, it's really well accepted. Myself and Kian was really not accepted. We was not expecting this at all. We was not expecting it to go to the media at all. But just to know that it's going so far, it means a lot to us. It really does.
Yeah. And we're going to be following you now. Like I can help support you and I will want to see you succeed. So and the more you get in the press, the more you get people supporting your journey, supporting you, the more you can support other people. So that this again aligns with Simon Squibb and Help Bank and everything. That kind of, we need to revolutionize the education system and the way we work into companies. So there's a lot of parallels. School is aiming to raise corporate robot people. So having worked with schools and companies around the world now, there are a lot of parallels that it's like we need to change all of this because we're humans, not robots. And yeah, the more people who get involved in this mission, the more empowered we can become, and the more likely we are to all succeed. Like, success doesn't happen alone. It's not actually a competition. We compete with ourselves,
Yeah.
keep improving. We're our number one opponent. It's not me versus you. If I start a podcast tomorrow, which I'm not going to, at some point, again, talking ideas, maybe I'll start a podcast, but I haven't done it, haven't committed to it. So you're ahead of me. I won't be competing with you. I'll be aiming to grow my own audience. And Simon Squibb isn't competing with you. We're all doing our own thing, but together for the greater good of society.
Yeah, I mean, we're both members of Help Bank as well. And every Monday and Thursday, obviously, there's business calls and all that sort of stuff. And we absolutely love it on there. We're always getting advice or we're always helping someone else. It's just nice to know that there's a supportive community behind you and you can support them as well. It's great.
I'm not actually involved, but I should possibly check it out.
Yeah, it's on
Like I said,
Discord.
yeah, because like I said, I've done David's mastermind, and that really helped me, like, to be around like-minded people. So it's all professional speakers, it's all people who are impact driven. A lot of them work with schools, but some don't. Some work with companies. Some, like me, do both. Like David does both, and that made a massive difference, because I don't know about you, but probably a lot of your friends don't get what you're doing. They're not on the same kind of journey. So that doesn't mean they're not our friends. I'm still friends with my friends from the gym, my friends from my hometown, but they don't get this growth and entrepreneurial podcast impact. They just kind of work to earn a living, maybe have a bit of fun at the weekend, go on holiday a couple of times a year if they're lucky. And it's like, people need to realize there's more to life than that.
Of course, a lot more.
Yeah.
So, like, when you are talking at schools, what are your aims? What are your main aims?
Well, the motto, the simplification of it all, the dream big, start small, never give up, is, so that's the aim. It's to encourage the individual in the audience that resonates with it to think about what they want to achieve, but who they need to become to achieve that. So, what does becoming a champion mean to you? Then think about who inspires them. So, like the role models, the people that they can aspire to be like, and what qualities do they have? So, and also who can you ask for help? What supportive communities are there? So, we've discussed this quite a lot, this podcast. It's all very aligned with that big dream. And don't be afraid to go bigger, because we do often like the smart goals and the keeping it realistic. It's like, no, go bigger. Like, engage. That's why primary school kids are fun, because they've got that imagination, and like the older we get, the more it gets conditioned out of us and we feel like we should fit in a certain box. Nope, go big, go, like, right, I'm going to go do that. Then break it down into the small steps. So what can I do now? What can I start? Like, don't wait till Monday, don't wait till the beginning of the month or the beginning of the year when we set goals. Pick a tiny action, like doing one press up, like whatever that might be in relation to your big dream. For you, it might have been asking that first person to be a podcast guest, or sending that one message and seeing the response until you get someone that says yes, until you record an episode, until one episode becomes 10. And then in 4 years' time, it will be 100 or 1,000 or however many millions of people. You don't know. If your big dream is to have a 10 million audience and sponsorship of X amount of money, and you have to start with that one message for that one episode. So dream big, start small, and never give up. Never give up is the simplest one. There will be struggles, setbacks, and losses along the way, but it's also the hardest one, because it sucks. It really is. There's no taking away the pain. We are humans. We feel all emotions. We get to celebrate the successes, but we have to struggle through the losses too. And then that's where the kind of be kind, support each other. Remember that no matter how successful somebody seems, you don't know what's going on the inside. That kind of mental health matters. Be kind. And that's my main message, really. And I link it to the kickboxing story.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So I've kind of got like going back to the whole like school limiting people's dreams. I should say, like, it's school tells you, don't dream too big. I think that's a thing where they condition it out of you at a young age. So you stay in that whole corporate system rather than going, oh yeah, I'm gonna go and achieve this and this. No, 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 you're gonna work in McDonald's. It's like it's it's certainly not by accident.
They try to downgrade you, isn't it? That's what they try to do.
I think they
But
try to fit you into a system. So, and this is where I'm working out my own way of articulating this, because there's the whole benefits of white belt to black belt, but then that is a system that is like the school system to a degree, but it's breaking it down into, we don't need to fit into a system. And a fighter and a champion doesn't actually need to fit into the black belt system. So black belt is more like education and leadership and corporate and that kind of working through a set framework to achieve a set thing. But you can create your own framework, your own syllabus. So like the podcast, that's not something that school has taught you, but you will have to do the steps to get there. You can't just go from 0 to 1,000 overnight, but with a degree of flexibility, in that sometimes you can just get a massive breakthrough and you can achieve, like becoming a champion. Like when I got that fight, that changed everything. All of a sudden I went from just being a not very good fighter that had a lot of losses and then a few wins but nothing of note, to saying I'm a champion. So it's breaking away from the system to allow yourself to achieve those big dreams, whereas school doesn't teach that. So I'm not saying systems are wrong. I'm not even saying the education system and the corporate system is wrong, because it works for some people. And I think there needs to be a way of having a system that allows the freedom of not following such a set structure for those that, and I also think with the advancement of AI, there is going to be more focus on creativity, sport, other pursuits, not academic, because all of the information that's programmed into the AI and everything, it will be better because that's kind of what my perception of the education system is. It teaches you how to retell information, when actually we want to go out there and innovate and create and get new information that isn't there yet. And school doesn't teach that very well, I don't think.
Fully
So,
agree.
yeah. So if there was like two or three things which you could take out of your career as a kickboxer and a speaker for that matter, which people could put into their own lives, what would be some points?
Oh, good ones. I'm not going to repeat what I've already said with the motto. I'm going to say to be consistent. So we have discussed this already. So once to have the clarity of what you're going to achieve, and then you've got to be consistent. You've got to be disciplined. You won't always want to do it, but you've got to make yourself do it. Like there is no magic hack that I can give you. It sometimes sucks and you just have to do it. But without that consistency, without putting the reps in, without that improvement, how will you ever become the best that you could be? So that'll be my first one. Number two, I want to emphasize the being around the right people, the right environments, communities, having the right role models and people who inspire you, people who support you. Don't be afraid to ask for help. So, like David helped me. He inspired us all on this podcast, both of us, all three of us. And so that the right people around you supporting you. And then number three, emphasizing the be kind, the mental health. Like you can't always see what people are going through. So be kind. Like the thing that's really annoying me at the moment, a very topical thing that let's not go into. I'm not a football fan, but Gareth Southgate and like the England management and the amount of horrendous comments I've seen. Whether you think he's a good manager or not, and I personally think he's done really well. We've got into two finals, and yes, we didn't win, but we were there, and it's the best I've ever seen us do as a football team. I'm not educated on football though. It's not my place to say about his football tactics, but he is a human being and it is not right to speak about another human being like that. So be kind.
Yeah, 100%.
Perfect. Okay, so if there was, let's say there was like a, someone who was head of a school somewhere watching right now, how would they go about booking you?
Oh, LinkedIn's my best channel. I'm Jess Roper on LinkedIn. I still don't have a website yet, but I've managed to do everything I've done without a website. So it's Jess Roper. I am also registered under an agency, School Speakers. So if you want to go through something backed by someone else, it's run by Claire Young and she was on The Apprentice. So you can book me through School Speakers, the agency, or you can contact me directly, Jess Roper, on LinkedIn, or email jess@iamfightingfit.co.uk.